This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about a culture of doing instead of a culture of being. The dominant capitalist culture is a culture of doing. It's a culture focused on the outside, on the external achievements. And the paradox is as a self-interest, egoistic culture based on the maximization of profit and accumulation of wealth, but it is nevertheless a culture of doing focused on external objectives, goals. A culture of being is at least this, as I see it, it's a culture focused on the conscious of that everything is relational, which means that it doesn't matter if it is economic activities or political activities or whatever, artistic, scientific, or any other form or functions, roles or functions that humans can play in society. They are relational, and we are intentionally conscious of the consequences, and therefore our behaviors, our habits, and everything else becomes part of the process. The consequences of our behaviors, habits, and tastes and whims and everything, desires, we measure them by its consequences, because we see them as relational and not as independent, not as rights, not as individual rights. A culture of being is not let's put it in a culture of doing. It is not a culture of doing versus a culture of being. It is a culture of being through doing. Through whatever we do, we do it through a culture of being, through a culture of conscious, of intentional consciousness of the consequences of our acts, and the economy, and the political economy, and the civilizational paradigm, and the rules, the principles, the values, the laws, the international institutions, national, international institutions. They need to be designed and implemented to make this order, to create this order where we are not dominated, where our behavior, our identity, our perception of ourselves and of the world is dominated by our individual interests, based on fictional social Darwinism, dogmatic culture, to justify a society that it is dysfunctional. It is dehumanizing. It is a dehumanizing. It's not a pro-human societal model. It is the opposite, and we do not see it. The reason it's because it is a blind spot for most of us, because we just think as we operate, let's put it this way, we operate in this functional mode, that we have a function, and through that function we make money, and then we achieve the goals that, according to the system, to the dominant system, it is what gives us value, because human value and material value based in business success, social status, professional careerism, that's what are supposed to be what you can show as human value, as because that's a market value. Human value is measured by market value. It is a capitalist measure, that it is a humanized measure, but that's our reality. That's the dominant culture, and all dominant narratives that through which we are indoctrinated have spread this idea. This is not only an idea; it's a reality. Besides being a fictional and the virtual reality where we live, that gives us meaning and purpose. Of course, it is always the material reality, the economic and social reality that tells us that if you want to survive, it's an implicit message that if you want to have value, you need to behave accordingly. It seems that you need to follow, you need to obey the rules of the system. Otherwise, you might become a deplorable, part of the basket of deplorables. Okay? By part of the people that are useless, do not have any value, because the value is not given by a culture of being, but a culture of doing. And by culture of doing, I do not mean, because if we assume that the culture of doing can be a positive thing, because by doing we produce stuff that we need to have, we need to produce, we need to have an economy that is functional, which means that can provide for the people. That's why I always talk about the culture of sufficiency and reciprocity, because that should be the paradigm of any political economy that is a social, ecological, political economy. Otherwise, we have an exploitative, extractivist, and driven by profit and wealth accumulation, and that's what we have. That's what really matters. Not nature, not humanity, not the life of other organisms. It's just this. The top priority is the private accumulation of wealth and for power and control. But this paradigm of this cultural paradigm of doing, it doesn't mean that what we are doing, what so many of us do or produce, is useful or necessary. In many cases, there are many professions and economic activities that are not necessary, that are part of the problem, because they are responsible for to make society dysfunctional. No, but not this. When I mean dysfunctional, I don't mean that they are not this. They are dysfunctional, but at the same time, they are profitable. because they are based in activities, so-called economic activities, like financial services and so many other activities that are predatory, and they are not useful for society. They are just a way for the few to accumulate wealth without producing anything. It's just a rentier, financialized economy that basically is a parasitic economy that destroys the real economy and destroys the fabric of society. And it is so that's the culture of doing. It might sound that it is a positive thing, but actually the culture of doing that is dominant in this world, and especially in many Western societies and economies, is a culture of negativity. It's a culture of it doesn't mean that the other cultures, the other economies around the world do not suffer the same problem, because they do. Because this is a structural problem, a systemic, a deep-rooted problem that is based on the mentality of the imperialist civilizational paradigm. This culture of doing is the background. It's for us. Is our environment for all of us. It doesn't matter what kind of walk of life or ideological identity. This is this is our environment, and it's both our cultural, our virtual environment, which means the environment, the cultural, ideological, the narratives, and everything that gives us meaning, identity, self awareness, self identity, but also it is what gives structure and substance to our material reality, to the world, how society is organized, and how society and the economy is organized. A hierarchy of value, what is valuable and what is not valuable. A hierarchy of power, a hierarchy of importance, social status, and all the rest. And we live in this reality that is made, that is a fusion of, I don't know if it is a fusion, but it is the reality, the cultural reality, as the purpose to justify the material reality, the social, economic, and political reality, with how society is organized. It's supposed to be perceived by us as normal, as natural, as almost impossible to replace, to change, because it is the result of the human condition, and that's why it has flaws, it has problems. There is inequality, there is exploitation, there is this, there is that, but we have to accept it, because we are not able to. We experience socialism, and we have capitalism, and we have other forms, feudalism, and other forms of organizing our societies and economies, And it seems that as this so-called democracy is the best, this model of democracy is supposed to be, we cannot get any better than this. We cannot, I mean, this is not good, but it's the best that we can achieve, kind of. That's why it is important to understand that the spell of Tina, you know, that is a cultural limitation that is imposed on us, and we accept it because we do not give a comprehensive analysis. We don't ask the right questions, and therefore we put limits on ourselves, and we believe that the narratives and the assumptions and certainties, the dogmas that are told us that there's nothing we can do. We can try to implement reforms, and I mean, we can try to change certain things, but we need to keep this system. Because we don't talk about capitalism, because capitalism is supposed to be the default system, political and economic, or at least of political economy, and society. This type of hierarchy is assumed as the only form of that we can have an organized society, because we need classes. It is normal and natural that we have classes and or castes, and all these divisions, this culture of division, as I before emphasized, this culture versus nature, instead of culture in the web of nature, and we do not, and all the divisions that separate us and that do not allow us to see or to perceive or feel that we are all relational. Everything is relational. That's why a culture of being, when we are trained through a culture of being, we understand, we learn and start to feel and develop this relation, this conscious, this relational consciousness with everything. So therefore we are more aware of the consequences of our thoughts, actions, feelings, and everything. Because we can be born with as individuals with more sensitivity because of our personality and temperament, and we might be more sensitive to certain things. We are more empathic or compassionate, or having feelings that are more intense on us, that we are naturally propensus, that are innately more propensus, more attuned to this kind of behavior. But nevertheless, as a culture, as a society, you need to have it as the system. It has to be part of the values, principles, laws, and the economic system and everything else. That's always my point. Because the point is, if we don't understand the wholeness that we need, we don't see that we are always, this culture of division doesn't allow us to build this relational understanding of life, because we live always divided, and we perceive reality and adapt and adopt cognitive dissonance as a form of survival, as a survival strategy, a subconscious survival strategy to adapt to a dysfunctional system that for us is functional because it's functioning, but at the level of the impact, the negative impact it has on our mental, psychological, emotional sanity, it has a negative impact on the long run that will show, that affects our inner, it doesn't take the same, it doesn't affect every one of us the same way, but it affects us, and it affects how we relate to each other, and it affects how we relate to nature, to other living beings, and everything else. Because we are domesticated animals, we can be domesticated to be many things. Education, culture, we can be instrumentalized, we can be indoctrinated to become anything. But the problem is not that we can be trained to become to be a specific for a specific profession or activity or role that is a high value, that have high value in our societies, and so that we have all our education system based on that purpose, that since a young age we are prepared to either accept these rules and follow them and have the opportunity to be successful professionally, socially and economically, or if you do not have the propensity to follow the rules of the education system, how it is structured, and we might end up living in the margins, or you just have to accept the professions that are not valued, because this is part of the system that tells us that if we do not deserve more because we didn't want to work, to sacrifice in our early life in order to achieve a certain position, to get a diploma, to become a member of the so-called professional managerial class. Therefore, you have to accept the conditions of a lower class. So this is again a form of using the myths of meritocracy to tell us, the most of us, that we have less value, our lives have less value, because what we do there are so many professions that are absolutely necessary, and they have more value, societal value and human value, than many other professions that are very that are considered important, and nevertheless they are worthless, or they have a negative impact in society and in nature. But that's how the system is organized, and we, by default, we accept it because we are domesticated. And this is domestication is a physical process and a mental process. This is again part of early shaping, not only shaping behavior, but shaping our subconscious mind in a way that our identity, how we perceive the world, how we perceive relations, how we see everything is deeply shaped by this structural and environmental reality that usually is always designed by the people that, of course, they want power, they want to keep power and influence, and they want to defend their interests because as the top layers of the social ladder, and therefore they want to keep us to keep us in this state of perception, because this is about perception management to manufacture consent, and then they create a value system that even we are supposed to perceive ourselves as we are supposed to perceive us as not as victims of a system, but as the ones to blame of lacking the intelligence or the diligence, the sacrifice to achieve success. This is not because this is totally a lie, but of course this is very exaggerated, and it is done in this way in order to make us comply with a reality that obviously is designed against our well-being, the interest of the many. The society of well-being that results from the capitalist culture of doing, the techno based on technoscientism and technofixism, gives us material well-being for those that of course have the money to buy it, because if the society, if you live in a commodified society, everything is commodified, therefore you have to buy it you need to have the means to buy, or we need to go into debt, because capitalism is a debt-based system. It is part of the system. It's not externality. It is by default that is part of the system. So the idea is that our well-being has a huge toll. The society of well-being, of material well-being that we have, gives us, supposed to be based on freedom of choice and in rationality, that consumer are supposed to be rational beings, which is not true anyways, because there are so many reasons and so many influences that make us, that are part of our decision, the process of decision making, that makes us conspicuous consumers of superfluous and luxurious items and goods and products and services that most of the time we do not need, but of course we buy them because we are driven to do it for many reasons that have nothing to do with our well-being, but to do with the creation of artificial manufacture needs and desires that are part of a system, a profit-driven system for the maximization of profit and the accumulation of wealth. So it is true that we have we can have lives with comfort and more convenient lives, which is also it's also a problem, because convenience can be addictive and create dependencies that weaken our will, that reinforces habits that are the opposite of freedom and mental freedom, and because physical freedom and mental freedom and material freedom, this is also part of the same. There is no freedom is also relational, and freedom of thought, it's required. For example, if you are worried with money problems and other problems that are related with economic struggle and social struggle, you don't have really mental freedom. Your mind, your subconscious mind, is in that weak state that you cannot really relax and try to focus on learning different things, and this is the problem that affects many people, that they blame themselves for their situation, not being able to provide for their families or to be able, they feel instead of feeling that they are being deprived of the means to live, they blame themselves of not being able to provide for them or for their families, and this is part of this culture of doing, the values and the rules and laws and myths of this culture of doing, that divides people into losers and winners. And the losers, of course, this is just a game. It's like war games. This is not a game. Life is not a game. Life is the only thing we have, and either we can live, we can really have the opportunity to build freedom, because freedom is not a right. Okay, freedom is a right, but you can only be free or become as free as possible if you have the opportunity to build it, if you have a culture, an economy, and the political system that truly helps you to build your individual freedom, not against the collective freedom, not against not in opposition to the freedom of others, but understanding that everything is relational, that you develop your conscious transformation through understanding that we need a culture of being, for balance, for developing, even for our spiritual lives. Because that's the point is that we, in order to develop our individual spiritual lives, we need this culture of being. We are not building our spiritual lives against or in opposition to the main culture. It doesn't work. This is the reason why we have a culture of hypocrites, a culture of double standards, a culture that people don't understand that it is required for them to be divided, because and to use cognitive dissonance to survive, because we do not have a culture of wholeness, a culture of holistic, to see everything as a web, part of the web of life, part of the web of nature, not separated from it. That, by the way, this is how the capitalist system developed. It is. I recommend the book by David. Not David. Oh my gosh, I don't remember his name. The book is called Capital in the Web of Life. Not David. Is it David? No. W. Moore? Maybe David. I'm not sure about that. For many of us that do not want to, are a little bit not understand things through class war, class consciousness is an important. It is, in my opinion, it is crucial to understand how our societies and political and economic system function. But also it is important to understand what I'm trying to explain is to understand that we can understand it through this understanding of how the system works, how the layout of our society just makes us conform with a reality that it is not based on well-being. We have the material well-being, but we have a dysfunctional system at the human level. And it is it and only the ability that we have to adapt is what makes us survive in this kind of system. Today I'm going to end it here. That is, I will be back to this subject because I believe it's important to understand the system where we live and to put it in perspective, and why we need to build a culture of being, not in opposition to a culture of doing, but in balance with it. And because I don't see how can we even, I mean, this division and the supremacy of, in this case, we are living in a society based on technoscientism and technofixism, and we are going to build a dystopian, transhumanistic, technofascistic civilization, which, in my opinion, we should avoid that path. I do not want. We are not going to have a anarcho-primitivist civilization, but we can have technology. But you can have humanized technology. We can have a holistic civilization, ecological holistic civilization, that with humanized technology, not just the other way around, not machination. I think we should avoid that path, and this is this culture of being that I'm trying to explain. It is part of us as human beings. We need it. This is not just a fantasy or a luxury. This is a need, a basic need for human beings. And you just have to need to understand that this culture of separation needs to be replaced by a culture of where we understand that everything is relational. And relational means that things have consequences. Whatever actions, ideas have consequences, behaviors, habits, choices, systems have consequences. And we need to be conscious of that. And we need to go through a transformative conscious process that makes it part of our daily lives. Not in opposition to the economic system or the political system and the societal system, but in partnership with it, that is part of it. So that's I will reflect. There will be some future reflections on it. So that's it for today. Thanks for listening. I'll be back soon.